So I've got it plugged in. Let's see if it turns on. Okay, we have power to the Xbox. Power to the disk drive. Let's see if we get a picture on the screen. And we do. So far, the controller also works. This controller did come with it for the $342. Another thing I need to mention is I bought this back in May of 2022, so I paid more for it than you can get them for now. You can get a broken Xbox Series X for in the $250 to $300 range. So everything looks normal so far. I'm gonna put a disc in and see if it'll play a disc. Oh no. Doesn't even try to take it in. I think the fact that we get an eject button noise means that there's power to the drive, but I don't know for sure. So let's get this thing torn apart and check out the disk drive. Now to open up this Xbox, I'm gonna be using my trusty iFixit Protect toolkit. We've got a pretty good sized bit and driver kit, and these bits will get you into pretty much anything you need to get into. Over here we got various pry tools and tweezers, and then more pry tools and a suction cup and an ESD strap over here. In order to open up this Xbox, I'm gonna need my driver, along with a T8 Torx bit, and then also this pry tool that I've already gotten a lot of use out of. This Xbox Series X has definitely not been opened before, so we don't have to worry about previous repair attempts, but oh wow, we do have to worry about liquid damage. I can't believe this thing even started up just by looking at this. Like, we got rust right here. Holy cow. Okay, we're gonna have to tear this one apart a lot further than I thought. All right, now we have the cover over the connectors for the disk drive. Oh my goodness. That is pretty bad. Actually, after I say that, looking at the connector itself, the connectors themselves don't look that bad actually when you get down in there. This though, all of this corrosion and rust right here, that definitely worries me. Also, what does the board look like under here? This could be a problem. Wow, look at this though. So much rust and corrosion on this thing. I'll take a look at this more in a minute. I've got to take this whole thing apart though, just so we can inspect the damage and make sure that this Xbox is going to be fixable. Look at this fan. We've got like mud caked onto the fan. Did someone like throw this in a mud puddle? Like, look at that. Okay, now we can take this whole middle piece out. Let's see how bad this is. Look at that down there. This literally was like in a mud puddle or something. There's just a bunch of mud down here. How does this thing even turn on? That's what I want to know. Look at the heatsink, first of all. It's just kind of like caked with corrosion, but not too bad. We got a little bit of rust here on the Wi-Fi board, but even that's not too big of a deal. The main thing is whether it got underneath the chip, because there's little solder balls underneath it, so we'll have to do some cleaning on that. So next I'm gonna remove the power supply, disassemble this metal shield right here so we can have a look down at the board itself. Oh, this sounds crunchy. Okay, definitely a lot of corrosion here, but I think it was actually probably kind of protected from it by this sponge material right here. And this white corrosion just kind of scrapes off. I'm not as worried about that. Okay, I'm actually fairly impressed at the condition of this console so far, considering what it seems like it's been through. But let's see how the board looks after we get this metal piece off here. Okay, here we go. And not bad at all. But we have another board down here, and also we need to check the condition of the bottom side of this board. I still can't believe this thing's powering on. It seems like the power supply would be bad or something with this amount of corrosion all over everything, but it seems like it's mostly just kind of like a surface corrosion, like maybe this was dropped in a mud puddle or left near a mud puddle or something, and the corrosion just kind of happened over time from the moist environment. I don't really know. I feel like this should not be working as well as it is. Also, the other thing I noticed is this little dowel right here that goes right down here. It like broke off, so that tells me that this probably like was dropped or fell into a mud puddle. So not only is it liquid damaged, but also it was probably dropped, so there's potential drop damage, and yet it still powers on and mostly works other than the disk drive. I've got to say, I'm pretty impressed. Okay, and off with the power supply. We got a bunch of rust underneath, but it doesn't seem to have affected the operation of the power supply. So that's good news. Also, this board right here doesn't look too bad. Now with the screws out, we can remove this board. And not too bad on the bottom side. Does need some cleaning, but overall pretty good. Now let's see if we have anything under the shield. Nothing major. Okay, this is good news. Ribbon cable also is good. Now let's check the bottom side of this board. We've got some corrosion here. Come on. Not too bad. Got a little bit of corrosion here, but really not bad other than that. Okay, good news so far. This will be our first look at the other board. Let's see how damaged it is, if at all. Oh, and so far, not bad at all. I really don't see anything. Maybe a little bit there, maybe a tiny bit here. Overall, though, this looks pretty good. This shield is definitely discolored over here. I'm not sure, that probably is just from the factory, but it'll be interesting to see what's under that and if anything got hot down there. All right, and now with this shield loose, we can look at the X-clamp. Everything's looking pretty good under here. And with that clamp off, we can now remove this last board and see what it looks like on the other side. Okay, here we go. Please be good. Okay, we've got some evidence of liquid here, a little bit over here, although it's like a residue. It's like, it seems like it was like in a moist environment and this just kind of like built up with the airflow. It doesn't seem like this was from like direct contact with a liquid. So I'm hopeful that we can fully fix this. I don't see any major corrosion on either of the boards. So next, I think you know what we need to do now. Now it's for sure gonna work because the perfect amount of thermal paste fixes everything. Now I just need to finish cleaning up the board and then we can get it installed and start the reassembly and cleaning process. And now with this first board all cleaned and reinstalled, let's have a look at the other piece of the sandwich, this one. So I'm just gonna give this all a good general cleaning, especially around these connectors right here. These are the connectors for the disk drive, so we need to make sure those are nice and clean. And then also got a lot of that same kind of like vapor that kind of like dried on here. We'll give that a good cleaning and then we'll reinstall this one. I'm just gonna be using my toothbrush and some isopropyl alcohol. I like to use 99%. That has very little water in it. Now we got this board clean, these connectors all cleaned nicely. Now we need to clean up this midframe a little bit. It's got a bunch of crusty stuff on it on both sides, so I'm just gonna give that a general cleaning. Then we can put this midframe on and this board on as well. Now we can get the midframe installed and this top board installed. Now that we've got that done, I need to spend some time cleaning up this piece along with several other pieces I need to install. I'm gonna do all of that off camera as you've already seen me do a bunch of cleaning, and then we'll get to the disk drive. So now we have the main internals all cleaned and ready to install into the console. I did just replace this plate because I had one sitting around and the other one just wasn't gonna get all the way clean. The power supply is mostly pretty clean. We also cleaned up this board pretty well. It's definitely not perfect, but it's much better than it was, and I think we have all the corrosion off of the important parts of the console. So now that that's done, let's take a look at this disk drive. Now looking up at the end where the connectors are, the connections actually look pretty clean on the inside, so I don't think that's an issue. But I bet after I've removed these 4 screws, we'll be able to see what the issue is once we get to the inside of the drive. Okay, and with those 4 screws removed, let's see what it looks like inside. Okay, we've got a lot of damage in here. We've got a major issue right here. It looks like this chip is just totally blown. I don't remember whether this chip is the one that's married to the main board. I think maybe it's this one. I think this chip might be replaceable. So looking at it, it looks like this disk drive has had major liquid damage. Let's take it apart a little further. Ribbon cable's got a little bit of damage on it. This ribbon cable doesn't have any. This ribbon cable is also good. Okay, let's have a look at the other side of this board. And we got a little bit of rust up here, but really not too bad. Yeah, look at this though. Let's get this laser carrier out and have a look at the other side. Okay, and here we go. Oh yeah. Surprisingly, the motor still turns. There's a bunch of rust all around the laser on this laser assembly. So this is definitely a faulty piece. And unfortunately, just looking at the rest of this disk drive on the inside, there's just rust all throughout the entire thing. This motor is probably also faulty. So what we're gonna try and do is install this board into a known good working disk drive and then replace this chip. So what we need to do next is desolder these 2 wires from each of the boards, and then we need to place this good chip onto this board. Then we need to install this board into this known good working disk drive. Now, like I said, I don't remember whether this chip is the one that's married to the motherboard on the Xbox Series X, but if it is, then unfortunately we're not going to be able to fix this Xbox Series X because this chip is blown out and there's no way to remarry a new chip. I really dislike how Microsoft and Sony marry these disk drive boards to the motherboards because that just inhibits repair. If you could just swap the drives, then that would make it super easy to fix stuff like this because I could just take this entire drive and just swap it right in and it would work just fine. So this is the faulty chip that came off of this board, and you can see that this leg was just basically torn right off. This is the burn mark right here, and this leg just came right off with it. So what that did is it tore off this pad, part of this pad. It looks like this pad's actually here. So this pin right here goes to this plane right here, and this little pin right there should be able to connect to it. If not, we can fix that with a wire. We need to run a jumper wire from this pin over to whichever one of these traces it goes to. We can look it up on that board that we took this chip off of. So I'm gonna get this repair done, and then hopefully that's all we're gonna need to do on this board. So I still need to do just a little bit of cleaning on this, but we have this connector is still not connected very well, so I'm gonna need to redo that one. But this one is connected with this wire now, so now we have a connection from the pin on this chip to the circuit on the board that it needs to be connected to. So now we just need to repair this trace. I might need to run a wire there. That should have stuck by now. So I may need to run a wire from here over to this capacitor right here. And now with that circuit connected, it's time to put this into the known good disk drive and put it into the Xbox Series X and see if it'll work. And with all that work done, we can start rebuilding this disk drive. Really hope this works after all that work. Okay, now we just have to put the cover on, then we can get it installed in the console and see if it works. And here we go with this nice clean disk drive into a somewhat semi-clean Xbox Series X. Almost every tool that I use in this video today, you can get at ifixit.com/TronicsFix. They offer tools like this toolkit, along with lots of other different sizes of toolkits that will fit your budget. Not only do they offer toolkits, they also offer parts for lots of different electronic devices, and one of my favorite parts of their website is their teardown guide section. So if you're having a problem with yours and you want to try and fix it yourself, I highly recommend ifixit.com. Now let's turn this on and see if this disk drive is gonna work. It does power on, that's good news. Let's see if the eject button works. And it does, but will it take a disk? Oh, I hear it working. Disk is in. Let's see if it'll read. I hear it spinning up. Come on. And here we go, it's installing the game on the disk we just put into the disk drive. So this Xbox Series X took forever to fix, but it's actually fully fixed. If you like this type of video, you'll probably like the video where I bought a broken Xbox One X Taco Bell edition to see if I could fix it. I'll put that up on your screen now so you can come hang out with me over there and see if I was able to fix it or not. Thanks again to ifixit.com for sponsoring this video. Thank you for watching it, and I hope you have a good one. Let's redo that. I didn't even plug the power button in, or the power cord in.